Hello, everyone. Today we are going to talk about area of a circle. So we do know some things about circles already. We already know how to find the circumference, so we're going to review that in a second. And today we're just going to take it one step further and look at the area. So here are some of the words that we need to know in order to do this. So first of all, circumference. If you remember, circumference was like the fence of a circle, the length. It's not an area at all. It's a length around the outside. So which one would that be? That would be B, the distance around a circle. Area of the circle then would be what's inside. And remember the way that we count what's inside of something is we cut it up into little squares. So that is the amount of space inside. And that's going to be something tricky about circles. And I'm sure you can kind of tell is we're going to have lots of little curved pieces. So we're going to have to figure out something about that. A radius of a circle starts at the center and it goes to the edge. So one endpoint is on the circle and the other is on the center. That would be E. And then the diameter would be what you would get if you took one radius plus another radius, and it goes from endpoint to endpoint as long as it goes through the center. And remember, we said that 2 radii would equal 1 diameter, or if you took a diameter and you divided by 2, that you can get the radius. So we had a formula for circumference, and they gave it right here to us. Pi times diameter or 2 pi r. And remember, those were the same thing because of what I just said. 2r is the same thing as a diameter. So we pick which formula we like based on what they give us. So this time they're giving us the radius. So you could use the radius formula if you want to go straight to the answer, but they're going to also say you can take the radius and turn it into a diameter. So if the radius from here to the end was 8, what would the whole diameter be? Well, this would also be 8, and the whole diameter would be 16. Then we can use the formula pi times 16 to get the circumference. And they said approximate here, so we're going to use our calculator. We might as well type in 3.14. So I'll take 3.14 times 16, and I'm grabbing my calculator. And I get 50.24. And remember, it's just a regular unit because you could measure that with one of those flexi tapes if you wanted. What if you would have used the 8? It would have been 2 times 3.14 times 8. And all they did is rearrange things here because the 2 times 8 would be the 16. So either formula would work for you. Now, this is what's kind of cool about circles. So if you picture your circle and you picture it like a pizza, you can cut it up into all these equal, what we call sectors, little pieces of pizza. And if you rearrange them like this, it kind of looks like a parallelogram. And we know the formula for parallelogram, that is base times height. Okay, now, if the r is for the radius, that is how tall the pizza pieces are. Do you see there? See how that's the pizza piece? That's r tall, right? These are all r, but this is r for the height. And then this pi r, where did that come from? Well, think about it. This is all the pizza crust. I got pizza crust here, 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 and here. But that's not all of the circle. That's only half of the circle. So it's half of the circumference is what is on the bottom there. So since circumference is 2 pi r, if you divide it by 2, those 2's cancel. And then the bottom of this is half of the circumference, which is pi r. The top is also pi r because that's the rest. And now you can do base times height, which is pi r times r, and you get pi times the radius squared. Now, the radius squared means r times r. So this is the formula for area of a circle. You don't have to remember where it comes from, but it's kind of nice to see that they just don't make this stuff up. It's going to be area is pi times the radius squared, or radius times radius. You have to do that twice in your calculator. There is an exponent button, but you could also just multiply it like this. So which statements are true about the area of a circle? Is the area equal pi times diameter? No, that's circumference. That's not right. Area is pi r squared. We just said that. Can you find the area by breaking apart a circle and forming a triangle? Was that the shape we formed? No, we did not form a triangle. We formed a parallelogram. And this is in my way a little bit. And will we put the area of a circle in square units? Yeah, and see, that's the nice thing about it. And I didn't really say that. But if you're going to find the area of a circle, you have all these curved edges. So are there still curved edges here? Well, there are because I cut the pieces so big. But if I cut this pizza into itty bitty pieces so that the pieces were so small, it's not going to be as bumpy anymore and it would almost be straight. So that makes it easier for us to count the little squares. All right, so let's practice with our new formula. Here is a circle with diameter of 12. Okay, what is their circumference? Well, they gave me the diameter, so I'm going to do pi times diameter, which is pi times 12. And 12 pi is what we call the exact answer. And we would have to have a unit. We would put centimeters because the circumference you can measure with a little tape measure. If you wanted an approximation, you would take 12 times 3.14 and you would get 37.68 centimeters. That's what we call an approximate. And we have the label. Now, for area of a circle, you only have one choice for a formula, and that's pi times the radius squared, or pi times r, because that means the same thing. Well, they gave me the diameter is 12, so we do have to do something extra here because I need the radius, not the diameter. So remember, the diameter divided by 2 is the radius, so that means the radius will be 6, and I can take pi times 6 times 6, and that will be 36 pi. This time we're talking about squares because area is the inside, and that is what we call an exact answer. It's exact because pi is still in the answer. If you want an approximate, you'll take 36 times 3.14, and that's 113.04, again, centimeters squared, and that's what we call the approximate. It's not too hard. There's just one step trickier because if they give you the diameter, you're going to have to first find the radius. So let's look at this one. Find the area of a circle in terms of pi, so that means exact, and then approximate, which means use the button. We'll have to round it. So what did they give me? They gave me the radius. Area of a circle is pi times radius squared, or pi times r times r. So the exact answer will be pi times 3.5 squared, or you could write pi times 3.5 times 3.5. Well, how can I make that exact? Well, just take the numbers without the pi times each other. 3.5 times 3.5 is 12.25 pi, and now we can say meters squared. That is the exact answer. If you're going to do the approximate, you'll take 12.25 times the 3.14, and they want us to round to the nearest tenth. So my calculator is telling me 38.465. Tenth is one decimal. The 6 is going to turn that 4 into a 5, and that'll be 38.5 meters squared. Little practice with rounding as well. What's next? A circle has a radius of 3 miles. It's a big circle. Use the work below. Figure out what the area will be in terms of pi first and then approximate. So we're going to do it 2 times. First we'll do exact and then we'll do approximate. So the radius is 3, pi times 3 squared. So do the part without the pi to get the exact, and that will be 9 pi miles squared. To get the approximate, you'll take the 9 times the 3.14. My calculator tells me that's 28.26, but this 2 is where I want it to end, so the 6 will turn that 2 into a 3, and that'll be a 28.3 miles squared. Okay, so this is the exact and that is the approximate. This is fun. So there's a carousel and it's on a square platform. The base of the platform, which is really easy to measure, is 15 feet. And it is a square, so that makes this 15 feet also. They want the area of the carousel. Well, they didn't tell me what I needed to know. I know the formula for area of the carousel is pi times r squared, which means I'm going to need a radius, but I don't know a radius. But I want you to picture this. Right here to here, I know what that length is because that's the same length as this. So that's 15 feet. That's a diameter, guys. So now I can take 15 divided by 2 and get 7.5 for each of those two radii there. So the radius is 7.5, and I can take pi times 7.5 squared, which is 7.5 times 7.5. And if I want the exact in terms of pi, it'll be 56.25. And don't forget your pi, and that will be feet squared. If you want approximate, we'll take the 56.25 times pi, which is 3.14, and I get 176.625, but we're only using one decimal. Oops, that's not where I wanted to underline, is it? One decimal. So that 2 does not change the 6, so I get 176.6 feet squared as my approximate. Let's look at another one of those. This time you have a circular garden and there's a rectangular grassy area. The garden takes up nearly half, if you can tell. The base of the grassy area is 6 and the height is 3. We're going to try to find the area of the circle. Well, the formula for area of a circle is pi r squared, so I really need a radius. Again, they didn't show me a radius, but they told me that this is 3 and this is 6. The 6 isn't what's going to help me here. This time, the 3 is what's going to help me, because if I move that 3 over, it will be a diameter. So the whole thing is 3, and if I take the 3 divided by 2, I'll get 1.5 for each of those two radii. So my formula is going to be pi times 1.5 squared. We are going to round, so I can type in my calculator 3.14 times 1.5 times 1.5. And I get 7.065. And they want one decimal, but that 6 will turn that 0 into a 1. And the answer is yards squared. This time they're talking about picnic tables, and they said there are 3 of them. They're all the same size. What will the total square footage, so we're going to have to add those up, if one table, let's go ahead and draw it, one table has a diameter, which goes all the way across, that was a really good circle, of 5 feet. Well, I need the radius if I'm talking about area. So area is pi r squared. So if the diameter is 5, I can cut that in half and I can get the radius is going to be 2.5. So pi times 2.5 squared. That is for one picnic table. I'll type it in my calculator, 3.14 times 2.5 squared, or times 2.5 times 2.5, and I get 19.625. That's for one. How many do I have? 3. So I'm going to go ahead and take that times 3, and I get 58.875. But I'm supposed to be rounding to the nearest tenth, which is one decimal. The 7 is big. It will turn the 8 into a 9. And I get 58.9 square feet, or feet squared, because we're talking about area. Now we have a fountain in a park, and it has 2 circular pools, and they are the same size. What is the total area of the pools if the radius is 3? Well, that's nice because this time they gave me what I needed. The radius is 3. So pi times 3 squared, that's 9 pi. Now look, my answers all have pi in it. So if I have 9 pi and I take that times 2, you just take the 9 times the 2 and you get 18 pi. Your other option could have been to take 9 pi plus 9 pi, and that gives you a total of 18 pi. So the pi, you almost treat it like an x on these. So we're looking for 18 pi. Let's see if there is an approximate 2. If I take 18 times 3.14, 18 times 3.14, I get 56.52. The 2 will keep the 5 where it's at, so there are 2 answers for us to check. This time they're telling us what the circumference is. Well, we haven't talked about circumference for a minute, so let's write that down. Circumference is pi times diameter. The circumference is 25.12 feet. So where the circumference is, I'm going to put 25.12 feet, and that is the pi times the diameter. Now they want to know the area. Well, I can't find the area without a radius. So I'm going to try to figure out what the diameter is first using this formula, and then I'll be able to use that to plug into the area. So how do I get diameter by itself? Well, I remember that pi is just a number, so I can divide both sides by pi, and they're telling me, I think probably we'll use 3.14, so 25.12 divided by 3.14, and I get that the diameter is 8 from typing that in my calculator. Now the diameter, if we remember, goes all the way across. But they want to know the area. An area is pi times radius squared. So I need the radius, not the diameter. So I'll change the diameter to a radius by dividing by 2, and the radius is 4. So pi times 4 squared, that is 16 pi. You can type that into your calculator, and you get 50.24. The 4 makes the 2 stay where it's at, and I get 50.2 feet, and area is squared. So first we found the diameter, which was 8 feet. Then we found the radius, which was 4 feet. Then we could find the area. Let's see what this one's very similar. The circumference of a circular pond is 120 meters. Find the area. So if they tell me the circumference, I'm going to write my formula down. I'm going to plug in what they told me the circumference is, and I'm going to use a little math to figure out what the diameter is. I can divide by 3.14 or pi to figure out what the diameter would be. And 120 divided by 3.14 is a diameter of about, we'll say 38.2, because it gave me a lot of decimals. So now I need to find what the radius is. The radius is the diameter divided by 2. So I have that number in my calculator. If I divide it by 2, I get the radius is about 19.1. So we had the circumference. We were able to find the diameter with a little division. We divided it by 2 to get the radius. They wanted us to round the diameter to a whole number. Okay, so they wanted this to be 38. Then they want this to be 19. I didn't read the directions. Now they want us to use the formula for area is pi times the radius squared. So that's 3.14 times 19 squared. And they want us to go to the nearest whole number this time. That's the first. So 19 times 3.14. And I get 1133.54. The nearest whole number means no decimals at all. So that 5 will change that 3 to a 4, and I get 1134 meters squared. That was a weird rounding one, so be careful. Now let's look at, I call these donut problems. But it's about a pool, and she wants to build a deck around it, and she wants the deck to be from here to here 4 feet. We talked about problems like this earlier. The pool's diameter as it is right now, from here to here, is 12 feet. So find the area of just the deck. Well, first, let's find the big circle first, okay? The area of the pool and the deck, that's going to be pi times the radius squared. Well, what's the radius of the big outside circle? And we have to be careful here, okay? So from here to here, it'd be half of the diameter, which is 6. Then the walkway is 4. So that gives us the radius of the big thing as being 10. So that's pi times 10 squared, or 3.14 times 10 times 10. And that gives us 314 square feet for the whole thing. Well, what is the area of the pool? That one's a little bit easier. Area of the pool is pi r squared, and they told us the diameter of the pool was 12, which means the radius on the light blue is just 6. So that's pi times 6 squared, which is 36 pi, or 113.04 feet. So how can I find the area of the deck? Well, the area of the deck is going to be the same thing as that big outside circle. Take away the pool. So I want to show you that again. I want to know how many squares are on my deck, basically. So what I can do is I already know how many squares take up the whole big outside thing. But this is not part of my deck. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 314, which is the big outside, subtract my pool. That's what donut problems do. They take out the middle of a donut, and you take 314 minus 113.04, and you get 200.96 square feet. Now, if they asked that for exact, I didn't do that, but this was 100 pi, and this is 36 pi. To take 100 pi minus 36 pi, you would still have a pi there. And you would just take 100 minus 36, and that would be 64 pi. And if you take 64 times 3.14 in your calculator, you'll get the same thing we got. So this would be an exact area, and then this would be an approximate. Okay, one more donut problem it looks like, and we'll be done. The fountain at the water park has a walkway around it, and this walkway is only 1 foot. What is the radius of the fountain and the walkway together? Well, the radius of the fountain would just be half of 16, which is 8. When you take that walkway with it, which is 1 more, that's going to be 9. So the area in terms of pi of the whole thing will be pi times 9 squared. Since they want pi in our answer, we'll just take 9 times 9 and get 81 pi for this. And if they just want the walkway, what we need to do now is take out the pool. So what is the area of the pool or the fountain? That's pi times the radius squared. Well, the radius we said is 8. So pi times 8 squared, which is 64 pi. So if I take 81 pi minus 64 pi, I'm still going to have a pi, but if I take 81 minus 64, I get 17 pi as an exact answer. And this is area, so it's feet squared. If I want to round to the nearest whole number, I'll take 17 times 3.14, which is 53.38. And I go to the whole number, no decimals. The 3 will keep it the same, and that will be 53 square feet. Okay, so this is area of circles, a new formula. Be careful with the donut problems, and make sure you ask for help if you need it. Good job today.